when we have constraints, we actually are more generative. We come up with more creative ideas. There are no don'ts, it's do's. Creativity is the new job security. Pass it on. And if we don't cultivate our creative thinking, if we don't get back to our birthright of being creative individuals who can solve any problem, accept any challenge, and even turn ourselves into a character that has high pressure stakes in order to answer emails, we're going to be out of a job. And I don't want us to be like that.
That's Tania Katan. She's a global transformational speaker, award-winning author, and co-creator of the viral social impact campaign #ItWasNeverAddress, a movement that's inspired over 100 million people. Tania specializes in teaching people and companies how to generate unlimited creative breakthroughs in less overtly creative industries, work cultures, and lives. Her visionary way of formulating ideas led to her award-winning book, Creative Trespassing, How to Put the Spark and Joy Back into Your Work and Life. So you'll learn 1, why creativity can be an antidote to burnout. 2, how to find inspiration in the everyday. And 3, creative hacks to make meetings more human and engaging. And if you want a quick summary write-up of some of these actionable takeaways, I recommend you sign up for the free Gold Nugget email newsletter. You can find that over at awesomeatyourjob.com. I'm Pete Bacchitis, and this is How to Be Awesome at Your Job. And now, here's Tania. Tania, welcome.
Pete, thank you.
Well, I'm excited. We're pushing record right away because we noticed that there's something unique about us, or noteworthy, I should say, about us. You and I, we talk differently, and we are also super into being creative and doing creative things. Is there a thing at play here, Tania?
Totally. The reality of it is we were all actually born creative. Period.
Okay.
And there's, unfortunately, based on systems and well-meaning or less well-meaning parents and teachers, all the creativity was sort of like slept out of us on our wrist. We were taught to kind of follow the rules and not think differently and all of this. But there is actually a study that proves that 0 to 5-year-old kids are creative geniuses, which means we're born to think divergently, come up with infinite solutions or ideas for any problem or prompt. And then at 10 years old, that drops off to 50%. And then at 15 years old, we just can barely get out of bed and be creative. And then by the time we're full-grown adults, all the creativity is gone unless we choose to cultivate it. But the good news is that we were born with it, so we can get it back. But I do like your enthusiasm for you and I being extraordinarily creative. Clearly, we've been stretching our muscles for a long time.
Yeah. Well, but I guess if I may, and maybe I'm grasping at straws or trying to find something that's not there. But I think there's really something to that notion of we start creative and it's beat out of us in all kinds of little ways. And we'll dig into it. And so I think perhaps you and I both have just doggedly refused to allow the world to wring the weirdness from us and how we choose to express ourselves. And so we've held on to a bit of a unique flavor in how we express ourselves, as well as the capacity to continue pumping out a lot of ideas.
Totally. Well, the good news is, guess who caught up with us weirdos? Forbes. You know it's over. But in all seriousness, about a year ago, Forbes said that the most important skill that we all, and by we, I mean the workforce, needs to learn and have is creative thinking for the next 40 years. So us suckers who double down on our weirdness and awkwardness and silliness and play, we're the ones shining right now. And that, I mean, Pete, I would be curious about your background. Like my background ended up being, I went to theater, I did improv, all that kind of stuff. But it was because it was my natural instinct and I couldn't fit into any other box. Like I tried so hard. I was like, I want to be straight. I want to have straight hair. I wanted to like everything. And my nature was such that I didn't have any other option, but it did take a long time, quite seriously and quite honestly, for the workforce to catch up with what me and my parents thought were cool attributes about being creative and coming up with cool and interesting ideas. It took a while for me to find my place and for me to convince companies that maybe hiring me because I don't fit in will be valuable to your bottom line and top line. And that took a long time.
Yeah.
What about And what for you? Were you just like, hey, I'm cool and quirky and weird and Pete, and hug me, hire me?
Well, sort of. I mean, well, it's funny how, like, oh, wow, there's a lot I could go into, and some of it I have with therapists and others. But I was into some theater in high school. It was just sort of fun, and I liked doing it. And I guess I just like performing in the stage in general. And then when I was in high school, I thought, I want to be a motivational speaker. That's the job I want for myself.
You did?
I did. So
Wow.
I was reading the book Speak and Grow Rich when I was like a 16-year-old. Like, how does one become a professional speaker? So I was digging that, having fun with it. And in terms of, and I did an improv intensive course once just for fun. It was so funny. I was told that I'd really mellowed out. Someone mentioned I'd really mellowed out a lot, and they liked that. And it's funny, I did not like that. I wanted to be unmellow. But I think it's funny how it is beaten out of us. It could be explicit or subtle. There was a string of times I got dumped. I had some girlfriends, things seemed like they were going awesome. Then I just got dumped, and I wasn't quite clear why. And, it could be any number of things. But what I managed to piece together from the little things they did say was, because some of it they even said, it's like, hey, no, I think we're great one-on-one, but like in group settings, it's like a little off. It's like, oh, I'm too weird for you that I embarrass you. That's what I'm gathering, right? It's like, I am entertaining and amusing like a comedian. Like, haha, this is fun. I like this guy. But it's like, oh, but actually I'm associated with you publicly. And that's kind of uncomfortable. So yeah, or then like very subtly, I recall as well, I just recently bought a house. And I was funny. I remember I was with a buddy and I was helping him move. And because he was also buying a house, and he said, hey, well, I'm going to the closing. I mean, I don't know, you could keep boxing my stuff, or you could join me at the closing. I was like, joining at the closing sounds much more fun. And so I was intrigued because I'd never seen this before. I'd only seen like the episode of The Office where Michael Scott closes on his condo. And so I was into it. I was like, I had young childlike enthusiasm and excitement for the experience. And I was, it's funny, they asked, oh, can I get you, like the realtor, the closing agent, or title person, someone asked, oh, can I get you some coffee or anything? And I said, oh, yes, please. I want the full experience. and like my buddy who I was with is like, come on, man, don't be weird. And I think that's the messaging. It's usually fairly subtle, not like a heartbreaking dumping, but it's like, hey, so like kind of just sort of be more like normal and not like you. And that would be more comfortable for all of us, please.
I love it, Pete. So basically what you're saying in essence, a couple of things. One is you have been a creative trespasser your entire life. And me too. I mean, I basically have been you in a parallel lesbian universe where
I hear it all the time, Tania.
Yeah, I'm like you, only a lesbian. Mm-hmm. But in all seriousness, I was the one who was like body, and I would say things that people wouldn't say. And people would either laugh, crack up, or be totally embarrassed, and everything in between. And at some point they realized, wait a second, I want to be funny, or I want to speak up, whether it's like hanging out or in a meeting or all these spaces in between. And I think people started to see me as, how do I do it my own style? And I'm like, oh, what's emerging here? And then when I went to the workforce, and ironically, I didn't study a book to be a motivational speaker. I was actually writing a book at 16, and a motivational speaker came to our high school. And I can't believe that bastard. We were in like a super impoverished school. We were like just a bunch of poor kids. And this guy comes in and with an like a cartoonishly large can that had printed on it, success comes in cans, not in can nuts.
I'm inspired.
and then proceeded to talk about, like, if you aim too high, you're going to miss. If you aim too low, you're going to miss. But if you aim right in the middle, that's where success is. And so my message was, so if you aim for mediocrity, like that's what you teach poor kids, aim for mediocrity. But somehow through all of that, and through me in the same way that you couldn't help yourself from being funny. And by funny, really, I'm guessing we pointed out obvious things or two things that seemed sort of weird and stuck them together and made new meaning. People were like, yeah, I want in on that too. I mean, by nature, again, we just get all the like playfulness, all the creativity, all the fun sort of like beaten out of us in all these systems, and especially as adult people. And again, this is where we are right now, where everybody needs this stuff. So at some point, I'm like, what is this thing that I'm bringing to teams and companies? And are there other people bringing it too? This level of joy that makes us want to contribute more, or makes us want to bring literally our whole selves to work and we feel safe. What is it? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it's creative, but we're bringing it into spaces where it's not invited, but it's desperately needed. And now that people have experienced it, they can't live without it. Okay, creative and trespassing. That's when you sneak shit in that doesn't obviously belong, but then now it's invited in through the front door many times. I mean, sometimes it's not, but here's where we are. We are basically kings and queens of the nerds, and I'm happy about this anointment.
Yeah. So I really like that. So that's the title of the book, Creative Trespassing, How to Put the Spark and Joy Back into Your Work and Life. And so the trespassing, it's like it wasn't invited or asked for, and it kind of seems like it doesn't belong, frankly. But now that you're here, okay, we're kind of seeing that it's nifty, and that's interesting. Then in terms of, so our unique flavor of expression, you and I, it resembles that of a child before it's been beaten out, and I guess is the connection then because we're more free to explore weird, wacky, unconventional things. Some of them end up being very useful innovations along the way.
Yeah. And also in that, though, is the practice of doing that. It's not just like we wake up one day after having all of the creativity taken away from us, or a lot of it, because of systems and people and all that jazz. And then we believe it. We believe all this sort of default crap of like, oh, I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not funny enough, or I don't belong here, or whatever. And then you and I clearly have maintained the practice of believing like, if I double down on everything that I've got, which is creativity, ability to come up with weird ideas quickly, and also not to feel ashamed or threatened by others if the ideas are wrong, to take risks and generate more ideas than not in order to get to something. That's interesting. And in fact, I was just giving a talk at Santa Barbara Museum of Art. And one of the things in my book, and that I engage this audience in, is I said, why don't you find a problem that nobody's looking to solve? That nobody's looking to solve in the world, or it could be local, it could be small. And that in itself was a trigger for people to be like, wait, I can just look for something that I wasn't told to look for. I can look for something that might be invisible and kind of bring it to life. And I had people partner with people who didn't know each other. So it was this older woman, this young kid. They faced each other and they did what could they solve? And then afterwards, I'm like, okay, so what did you do? And they're like, well, there's a really great restaurant in Santa Barbara, but they're really garlic focused, and a lot of people go there for dates. So the problem is you don't want to like make out with somebody if you got garlicky breath. So we'll plant a mini garden, like a little flower box of parsley right outside the restaurant, have some colorful scissors so people can cut parsley on their way out, eat them, and they don't have to worry about garlic breath. Now, this seems sort of like simple, but it's actually brilliant. I mean, it's genius. It's like a really great idea. They had 3.5 minutes to come up with this solution. And they did. And there were other people who figured out how to clean oil from the beaches, how to grow wine grapes in the sea, like all of these things. And so I think the first part of that is to give ourselves permission, which obviously you and I have been doing for a long time, to sort of stretch our creative muscles, trust our instincts, and be prepared to take risks and be wrong a lot. Who cares, right? Like in the pursuit of that one sort of solution, you have to have wild, weird, outlandish ideas and see what comes out of them. It's not like be perfect right out the gate. That's ridiculous. That's not prototyping. That's not innovation. That's sort of the antithesis of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because let's talk about that emotional notion of being beat down. It's funny. Sometimes when we're brainstorming or whatever, I have zero offense whatsoever. I provide an idea and it's just like shot down summarily and robustly. Often that will bother me not at all. It's like, well, hey, I've got 20 more. So next, let's go. But other times it hits hard in terms of it feels personal, like a rejection of me and my selfness. And I don't know where the distinction is. Maybe it's about self-expression as opposed to ideas that feel a bit removed, but help us out. If the world is going to beat us down, and sometimes we won't care and sometimes we will, how do we take it and keep on trucking?
Well, first of all, I'll give you and everyone who's listening the gift of a question, which is what if? What if? So the minute we kind of engage discussion, what if it allows for possibilities beyond this time and space? What if kind of softens the blow or lowers the stakes of like, I need to be responsible to come up with the solution to solve the problem of a lack of women in technology? What if it's like, what if we decided to look at something differently? Like, what if we decided to come up with the wrong answer? What if we decided to launch a campaign in outer space? Like, what if? So there's something about this question that I always give to people. I've had it in my back pocket since I went to theater school, that lowers the pressure and the taking it personally and making it about yourself. It's like a gentle punting of a question into the ether, and maybe a solution will come. Even your voice goes up an octave when you ask what if, right? As opposed to like, okay, here's my solution. And also it decenters. It's not about you. It's not like I have an idea. I have a solution. It's like, what if? It offers it up to everyone. So I think that taking it out of yourself, decentering you and our egos and our brain, and allow it to sting. It does sting. I remember coming up with the idea for It Was Never a Dress, which I don't know if you've seen, but I'm sure your listeners have, and they can envision their mind's eye. The bathroom lady, the symbol. And so what is she wearing, Pete?
Well, now I know better. She's wearing a cape.
Oh, come on, God. Yes.
I'm sorry. I'll play along.
No,
she's wearing a dress, Tanya. She's wearing a dress.
Thank you for playing. We have some lovely parting gifts for you, Pete. Right. So I came up with this idea in a meeting, and literally, to your point, there were people who were like, that is the dumbest idea ever in our team meeting. And some were like, that's the best idea, and everything in between. And to me, the moment that I took that personally was when I knew it was such a good idea, I was willing to fight and push for it to be in the world. That's when I took it personally. But before that, it was like, well, here's some ideas. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, I hear you. By saying what if, it's not about you. It's not about your ideas, your contribution, your smarts, your worth, your value to the team, yada, yada. It's like, hey, we're just going to play a game here.
Yeah.
And we're going to step into this world, and we'll kind of see what happens when we play around here.
Totally. And you're reminding me of a phrase that I loved so much, and nobody ever uses it, but I bet you do, Pete. Spitballing. And when I think about spitballing, I think about saliva leaving your mouth in an ungraceful way and just like kind of getting messy and all over the place. And so thinking about spitballing as a way to just kind of like, if a little spit gets somewhere, it's not about perfection. It's actually the minute I open my mouth, it's about messy imperfection. Yes.
That's good. Well, so sometimes when we're talking about creativity on How to Be Awesome at Your Job, a listener will think, well, I'm not really in one of those creative type jobs. Do you have a response to that? And how can we think about creativity impacting all humans and workers?
Yeah. So really, there have been studies to prove that we are all creative. There's one, and for those people who say that, they probably have a lot of constraints in their job. Maybe like, I don't have time. I don't have budget. I don't have a team. I've been that person many times. And there was a seminal study by Patricia Stokes with rats. And she took two groups of rats. They each had a bar they had to push. One could use both paws. One group could only use one paw. And the group with two paws just pushed the lever, pushed it, and fine. The group with one paw, they pushed the lever, and they're like, hold up. Then they pushed it behind their back, then between their legs. They came up with hundreds of ways to push this freaking lever. And the point was that when we have constraints, we actually are more generative. We come up with more creative ideas. So my challenge to those people were like, A, I'm not creative. You were born that way. It's your birthright. So let's tap back into it. And B, constraints actually foster creativity. And creativity is literally just coming up with infinite ideas and solutions for any problem, challenge, obstacle period. So it's not, there's two C's of creativity. There's the big C, which is like, I'm a painter, or I'm a playwright, or I'm a choreographer, and that requires training and maybe some innate ability. But the little C is we can come up with infinite solutions and ideas, and that's within us. So constraints. So I dare you to take these constraints. There's actually an exercise I give in creative trespassing, which is come up with like the positive opposite of this sort of problem that's ailing you. So I don't know, Pete, who have you had on your shows like, I'm creative, I work at a call center, or I don't know, what kind of person or industry are you talking about?
Well, I think you nailed it in terms of the constraints, in terms of if a person feels constricted as though they don't feel they have the authority or resources or autonomy to go invent a new approach to whatever. It's sort of like, well, hey, the processes have been established and my role is to execute them. That's kind of the vibe or context where they're coming from.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll give you an example from the art world, which is where everybody gets their goodies. There was an artist named Meg DeGood, and years ago, she just wanted to open a gallery, right? She had met all these cool artists from around the world, and she's like, I live in Chicago. I want to bring all these artists in. And then she went to look for a gallery, and guess what? It's very expensive. She's not making much money. And this is her dream. And she doesn't have investors. She's not friends with like VCs or whatever. I mean, and so what did she had a choice. She's like, I could just let my dream go away, or I could find a creative way to deal with these constraints of no money, no space, no patrons, nothing. And so she started Clutch Gallery. And it's literally, have you know what a clutch purse is? It's like 10 inches by 10 inches. And hers is sort of hard shelled. And she has, if you open it up, there's rotating exhibitions in there. There's like really tiny, she had a painter who had to do like 1/2-inch scale paintings. She had a performance artist who had to figure out a way. So the point is that instead of giving up on her dream of owning a gallery, she decided to make it 10 inch by 10 inches. And if you call her, she'll come with the gallery and meet you anywhere at like a coffee house or on the streets or whatever. And she's showing art of people that she admires around the world. And then they have the constraint and challenge of how do they make their work fit within 10 inches and 10 inches. Mm-hmm. These are people who show in massive museums or galleries that are more, typical. And I just thought that was the best way. I had some engineers come up to me after I gave a talk at Uber, and they're like, we want to start an innovation lab, but we don't have money or buy-in or anything. And I'm like, why don't you get a clutch? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But why do
it all starts.
Yeah, that's where it all starts. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, and we're laughing. And whenever I share this with people at Fortune 500 companies, they laugh. And then they're also like, yeah, actually, I guess I do have some less obvious resources that would be really interesting and actually fun to activate and play with. And that's real innovation, not bullshit like, oh, I've got a ton of money and a whole team. I mean, I'm sure anybody who's done anything that we admire was not necessarily done with a whole team and a lot of money.
Well, and what becomes really interesting about it is creative in so far as it is novel, like certainly that hasn't been done before. But then interesting implications sort of unfold from that. Like there is one clutch and she has it. And so like, if you want, like, so if folks who are like into a unique, cool, arty experience, if you have a money problem, may very well be is like, well, shoot, I'm gonna get all my art friends together. And if I want this gallery to come to our event, well, now there's a supply constraint, so there might be a substantial fee associated with it. It's like, you want the clutch? Yeah, well, for your fancy friends, that's going to be $800 for me to truck it on the L over to you there.
I like how you went to like scale and capitalism in like one beat. Bam.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thank you.
I like that. I like it a lot. Nice transition. So yeah, but I mean, that's just like saying, oh, somebody came up with a project management SaaS. We can't come up with any more. But the cool thing is when somebody comes up, is first to market, whether that's a clutch with a miniature painting show in it or a software as a service. And it becomes a North Star for everybody else to tap into. Like, okay, how am I going to use my unique voice, brand, style, tone to connect with my intended audience in a positive way? What's my clutch? What's my clutch? Ooh, hashtag, I see a new campaign, hashtag, what's my clutch?
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. You mentioned like a software as a service, project management piece. And it's like, oh, well, that's already been done. There are multiples. And yet I'm just thinking, I see so many variants and they're kind of fun. I'm thinking randomly about the Carrot weather app.
What? I don't know what that.
Well, it'll give you attitude. You can choose from several personalities and how you want it to tell you about the weather, from professional to friendly to snarky to homicidal and overkill. And so if it brings that fun to a very mundane activity, like, oh, what's the weather? There's plenty of weather apps. Well, if you want your weather app to have some attitude, you've got Carrot Weather, and it has a boatload of users. It's really taken off.
Well, because what it's done, and that to me is the ultimate expression of creativity, which is taking something that's seemingly mundane or everyday or overlooked and actually turning it on its head or upside down or inside out so that it can really engage people in a fun, uplifting, and positive way. Really. I mean, that's what we need in all industries, in all areas. You know, you're reminding me of this, my side hustle in which I don't get paid, but I'm turning to you to understand how to commodify and scale it, sir. But which is, you know, whenever I'm on hold with like the bank or any kind of institution, which is all the time, they always have their hold music. And so I decided to start doing dance and performance with the hold music and just videotaping myself and sharing it with anybody who's had to be on hold. And it's so much fun. And so it turns something that's not only just like mundane, but actually frustrating. And sometimes when I haven't had a nap, just downright irritating, I become the nasty carrot, more like a gourd, I feel. And and so it's taken something that I have to do, that we all have to do, which is engage with customer service in a way that's sometimes and oftentimes not enlivening. And it all starts with their canned music, and turn it into a performance or dance, even if it's just for myself, especially if it's for my friends, and we can all enjoy it a little bit more. So I love the carrot.
No, that is fun. And I want to talk about some additional examples of that, because that's your subtitle, how to put the spark of joy back into your work and life. Let's talk about some mundane dimensions of work life. Let's say answering emails and participating in, we'll say, Zoom meetings that they're not the most interesting and maybe not the most essential, but nonetheless, you're expected to be there. And there's probably a few minutes that are actually really necessary for you out of the 60. So how might we bring a little bit more of that zest to these experiences?
Well, first of all, I consider this 1 inch by 1 inch frame in our camera as a stage. It's not this sort of passive participant. We can engage with this as if we're, as a speaker, as a motivational speaker. I give a lot of talks on Zoom. And so if you are conducting the meeting, then I would recommend that you start with seeing the space as an active, alive, performative one. Not performative work, but more performance-based. So for example, Pete, if we were just entering a Zoom meeting and I was quote unquote running it, I would say, okay, Pete, you know, our meeting today is creativity. We're talking about creativity. So you know what? Let's start with something creative. We're going to leave the frame and we're going to count to 3 on our own. 1, 2, 3. And when we get to 3, enter the frame in the new way. You ready? Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, we're going to leave the frame. Bye.
Okay.
Okay, so look, here's the deal. A lot of people forget thought and form, right? The thought is, why have we all convened? What's the theme? Why are we here, right? And if it's about creativity or innovation, a lot of these meetings we're having are for a reason. And we forget about it. We get just perfunctory and like we check off the bullet points on the agenda. And I'm here to tell you that connect what you're talking about to the actual form in which it takes. So don't start a meeting about innovation by saying, okay, who has the notes from the last meeting? Hey, Pete, can you hear me? Can you hear me? I mean, why wouldn't you engage people with the substance that you're trying to sell, to commodify, to champion as like, this is our vision and mission. And yet it's the first thing to go away when we sit down at a meeting, or when sometimes we engage in practices that we think are like less interesting. Having that connection to what we do and why we do it is so important. And I don't think it should be left out of anything. It needs to be brought into everything. And I promise you it'll change culture and it'll change your mindset and change how fun Zoom meetings are.
Well, it's fun. I'm imagining you talk about the little camera square as a performance space, like a stage. I'm imagining from Arrested Development, Tobias Funke, who would, place aside his artist's smock to adorn his director's hat or whatever, get props, get silly with it. That's kind of fun. I want to hear your take on email. You're reminding me of some things. I've only done this a few times. I guess I was that desperate. Like, I need to do these emails and I really, really don't want to. I put on a headset, which kind of helped because I was doing some dictation to speak a little bit. But more so, I was pretending to be the character Chloe from 24, talking to Jack Bauer about some very urgent situations as I was quickly typing away on the screen, because that's what Chloe always did. And it was life or death, terrorism, high stakes, to put a little bit of juice into the email processing. And that kind of worked. I've also tried timings, like, oh, it's a race. Let's try and get 100 by this many minutes or whatever. So I'd love your hot take on how do we bring some more spark and joy back to email processing.
So I love that you created a whole meal out of your persona to sit down to respond to emails.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But you're not responding in their vernacular or like with their language. It's Pete responding, but you're giving yourself that urgency and excitement of being the character. Is that?
Well, if I don't answer these emails, the terrorists are going to win. So it's.
So you're raising the amount, you're holding yourself hostage. I love.
Yeah.
I don't typically recommend.
There you go. Put some duct tape on your mouth.
I'll approach it from another way, which my clients who worked for like big tech companies like Expedia and stuff like that, and they have to construct the most boring emails to people who have not read anything that they were supposed to read in a way in which suggests like, I'm sure you read the 20-page report, and here's what blah, blah, blah. And so what they do, that is really exciting is they just throw in an Easter egg because not everybody like has tapped into that. So it'll be all about like the new version of whatever, the new release of the technology. And they'll throw in like a few Easter eggs from Star Trek or whatever film or TV show to see if they've read the thing they should have read. And if they do, then they get bonus points. And the person who's on the other end gets excited. They're like, okay, I'm going to read that because I know there's going to be some Easter eggs in there. I've never tried that, but I'm going to try adapting. I feel like my persona is just so, I'm always performing in relation to that. I love that. I'm going to start using that. I'll hashtag Pete.
Oh, sure. Oh, I'm honored. Thank you.
I'll TM you. I love that. That's such a great way is to like put on the hat of whatever character you think is sort of weird and wily and wonderful and get all the high pressure stakes that they have in their situation and respond to an email about the next team meeting.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Oh, cool. Fun. Well, is there anything you do when drudgery enters your work life? What are your personal practices for spicing it up?
Well, first of all, this is really practical spice and it's a tomato. I feel like you had a carrot. I should bring some vegetable fruit to the table. And the Pomodoro method, I know this sounds sort of boring, but this is the best thing that I've given to all my clients. It's a time management. It's a constraint. So basically it started with like a tomato timer, but set a timer for 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and get done what you need to get done. And when the timer goes off, you take a break, you dance, you work out, you breathe, you jump up and down, whatever the hell you want. You drink a coffee and then you set it again. So creativity isn't always like, I'm racing against time in like a larger sense. Sometimes it's all about like, I give myself this constraint so that I can approach what I'm doing in a way that's like, doesn't beat me down, feels kind of fine. And I can move on to the next thing that's actually more fun for me. So I know that's not sexy, but tomatoes can be sexy sometimes. Time management can be sexy because it allows us to do the things that we really love to do. Thus, the gift of AI, I've got to say. I mean, that's where if you really want to be developing your creative muscles, let something else do the boring tasks. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. When it comes to AI, I would love to hear your pro tips, do's and don'ts. I mean, I think we've seen AI really go both ways in terms of a worker has used it to be more effective and efficient, and a worker has used it to embarrass themselves royally because these citations or legal cases don't exist, or they let it sort of do they actually let it do the fun parts for them. So help us out. What are your do's and don'ts for AI and helping us have more fun and creative goodness in our work?
Okay, here's the deal. I did a thought experiment. So I was an early adopter with ChatGPT, and you can't forget the learning part of machine. It's machine learning. So it's like what you're feeding it and what we're all feeding it, whether we're feeding it burritos or like Twyla Tharp. It's getting a lot of stuff in its pie hole. And that's part of the process. But for me, early on with GPT, I realized it was what AI won't do is it won't write 50 shitty pages in order to get to that one line that you're like, oh my God, I thought my book was about this, but it's really not about that. It's not process oriented. It's a processor. It's not, and we are process oriented, and we are driven to have those moments where we doubt we could write the book. We doubt we could write the code. We doubt it. And in the doubting, we dig in deeper, and then we find a totally different way to do it, a way that isn't a pattern, that is less obvious. And that's the beauty of us being human beings.
Well, agreed. So then, is there anything you think it's handy for?
So I find it really effective and efficient for the stuff that slows me down as a creative, right? Making the bullet point lists, organizing thoughts and ideas into a clear form that I can take to a company that I just met with. And I'm like, here, I met with them. I'm like, I can help you tell your story in all these different ways, engage your audiences. And then I get home and I'm exhausted. I don't want to sit down and make a proposal that's cogent. So I've really worked with ChatGPT and helped it, nail down the tone and do the hard stuff. That's what it's there for, is to do the stuff that is boring to me. That's why I love it so much. And also, in fairness to this processor that is kind of gleaning and gathering all kinds of information, because I've fed it so much over the years, it can be kind of a thought partner. I guess I think about it as like a very high achieving intern, like it's not like it has shabby ideas, to your point. It can come up with creative ideas, but that's based on years of me sort of showing how I think, how I feel, how the people I work with think and feel. And so it can be really good, like an intern who's like, hey, Tanya, I have a really good idea. And I'm like, yeah. I mean, it's good. It's super good. The tone isn't there yet, but that's my job. That's what I delight in is the creative crafting of that, of the messages. So I think it's a good thought partner, first drafter, and definitely great with the tedious tasks that us humans shouldn't be doing.
Well, and it's intriguing, tedious tasks in some ways to get philosophical. It's a bit in the eye of the beholder insofar as an attorney might delight in crafting a contract that seems oh so thorough and risk mitigating and comprehensive. Or maybe they hate it too. I'm not sure, but yeah.
No, but conversely, to your point, Pete, so if that's your creative output, is the sort of the tasks and the focusing in on the details, then you're training it to come up with the creative ideas that you're feeding into it. And maybe those ideas aren't perfect, but maybe within the realm of the people that you're engaging with, those are like really radical ideas that you can explore together as humans and see if they work, test them out.
Mm-hmm.
So use them for the opposite than the person who's expressing or sort of stretching their creative muscles all the time desires to use it for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, tell me any final thoughts, tips, do's and don'ts about creativity and joy?
There are no don'ts. It's do's. Creativity is the new job security. Pass it on. The only really, I mean, in all seriousness, back to the full circle to the Forbes quote, I mean, they've literally doubled down in 4 issues. They've written about how important creative thinking is for knowledge workers, because AI will be able to do everything we can do and faster. And if we don't cultivate our creative thinking, if we don't get back to our birthright of being creative individuals who can solve any problem, accept any challenge, and even turn ourselves into a character that has high pressure stakes in order to answer emails, we're going to be out of a job. And I don't want us to be like that. We're the ones who created AI. So let's wield the power of technology rather than it dragging us around.
Big thanks to Tania for sharing her wisdom with us. And big thanks to our sponsors. Check them out. One sponsor to check out is strawberry.me Career Coaching. Having real clarity and direction can make or break your career. If it seems like you're putting in the work but not seeing your career take off, some coaching might be just the ticket. Strawberry.me matches you with certified career coaches who help you gain clarity on what you really want next in your career, develop a results-driven strategy, and stay accountable. And they can also help you flourish beyond career issues. I had a fantastic session with my coach, Brett, about handling stress from so many responsibilities in so many areas. He was fun. He was wise. He just really got me. We had some laughs and a good time and a good rapport. And he gave me an exercise that has been so quick and so effective for me. I've been doing it every day. So if you're ready to take control and build momentum in your career, go to strawberry.me/awesome to claim your $50 credit. That's strawberry.me/awesome. Because awesome careers don't just happen, you make them happen. One sponsor to check out is Rula. I'm a huge believer in therapy and have personally benefited greatly from many online sessions. Unfortunately, many folks looking for therapy can have a really hard time finding a solid therapist. And when they do, that person might not take their insurance. So frustrating. Rula does it differently. They partner with over 100 insurance plans, making the average copay only $15 per session. On top of that, Rula goes deep, considering your goals, preferences, and background to provide you with a curated list of licensed in-network therapists and psychiatrists on target therapy and medication. No wait lists or any of those headaches. Thousands of people are already using Rula to get affordable, high-quality therapy that's actually covered by their insurance. Visit rula.com/awesome to get started. And after you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them. Please let them know How to Be Awesome at Your Job sent you by going to Rula, RULA.com/awesome. You deserve mental health care that works with you, not against your budget. One sponsor to check out is Plod. Plod is an AI wearable gadget that takes notes of meetings and calls. With Plod, you don't have to take notes and make summaries anymore. It'll do it for you. This tiny AI gadget is the perfect accessory for your phone. It takes notes, instantly generates transcripts, summarizes critical points and action items, so you can stay focused without frantic note-taking. Personally, I was really impressed with my Plod. It's about the size of 2 credit cards stacked on top of each other, super tiny. The setup and Bluetooth pairing was about the quickest, most seamless setup of a device with its app that I've ever experienced. And I was really impressed at how a device this tiny has acceptable audio quality and battery life. Their transcriptions I found were super accurate and the AI insights were sensible. So you talk and Plod handles the rest. If you're ready to work smarter, type PLAUD into Google and get a discount with my code AWESOME. That's PLAUD. All right. Well, now could you share a favorite quote, something you find inspiring?
Maya Angelou, all the way. People will forget what you did. People will forget what you said, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
All right. And a favorite study or experiment or bit of research?
Yeah, the Patricia Stokes study on rodents and creativity and constraints.
And a favorite book?
Yeah, Pema Chodron, When Things Fall Apart. That's my favorite. When Things Fall Apart, Pema Chodron, all the way. It's a good read anytime, especially now.
And a favorite tool?
An espresso cup.
Okay. And a favorite habit?
Laughing.
Okay. And is there a key nugget you share that people quote back to you often?
God, no. What people say is, "Oh, Tania, I love what you said. Can you say it again?" And I say, "No. Whatever comes out of my pie hole is there for you to use or throw away immediately. There's no in between."
All right. And if folks want to learn more or get in touch, where'd you point them?
TaniaKatan.com, TANIA, Katan.com.
Okay. Did you have a final challenge or call to action for folks looking to be awesome at their jobs?
Lower the stakes, take some risks, do it in places and with people you feel safe first, and then expand the circle, and then expand the circle even more until it's so big that every place is a place for you to take a risk and find some joy and double down on being a creative human.
All right. Tania, thank you.
Thanks, Pete.
I love so much of what Tania had to say about the constraints really fueling creativity instead of shutting it down. Because it's one easy neural pathway to go down, like, oh, I don't have the time, I don't have the budget, I don't have the team, I don't have the skills, oh, I'm in bad shape. And yet, boy, when you have those constraints, it really does spark some cool things. Recently, when it got super duper hot, it was 100-ish degrees, feels like temperatures going on. And I have an underpowered air conditioner, which is not doing much. So the room was like 86 degrees Fahrenheit. And I was sweating. I don't do too well with the heat, but I can't have the air conditioner on, even with its medium power, when I'm recording, or it will damage audio quality. I don't want to do that to you. And I was stuck a little bit. And so I was thinking, what can I do? Maybe if I can hold on to something cold, but what? And I'm kind of, after recording just a few hours, what should I do? Is there like a thing I can just put ice into and sit on? I'm having some trouble finding such a thing. And then I just strolling through Walgreens, like, what do we got? Oh, those old-fashioned little hot water bottle things you might wear or put in the bottom of your bed. Okay, well, what if I did that and filled it with ice water? Oh, but the hole is too small for the ice. But who has small ice? Sonic has small ice. And so that is what I did. I filled up this old-timey hot water bottle with cool, you can do that, it's not against the rules, water and Sonic ice, which is smaller and fits into the little hole on the top. And I was able to clutch onto that with the glabrous part of my flesh, the palms and the feet, which Dr. Andrew Huberman tells me is supposed to make a big impact in the cooling. And sure enough, it did. I was able to do multiple interviews in the crazy hot room and not feel terrible, not feel dumb from the heat, which can happen. And afterwards, I felt like just a tremendous champion. It was just such a great feeling to feel the creativity, to conquer the challenge. And now I've just got another handy tool for whenever the situation arises. I've already done that thinking, and I know, I have a ready-made solution to if the air conditioner goes out, if the electricity goes out, if it's crazy hot and I'm limited on resources, Sonic ice plus water inside a hot water bottle, clutch it, and productivity despite heat ensues. So constraints can actually liberate creativity and be a lot of fun, as opposed to just a real bummer. Oh, it's hot and there's nothing I can do. Good stuff from Tania. If you want to check out the show notes or the transcript or the links to items that we reference, please drop on by awesomeatyourjob.com/EP1072. Hope to catch you next time. And peace.
With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 350 plus undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.